Admiral Tenay has a new assignment for us. Last time, a surprise attack on Vulcan unearthed the fact that the Romulan Star Empire has begun to experiment with Borg technology, something that is considered incredibly dangerous. We also learned that a Borg Sphere is in the Pilatus system, and it's likely the source of their reverse-engineered tech, and it was delivered to them by a Commander Tangen. The emphasis on hunting and Tangen's origin in the Delta Quadrant make the Hirogen likely suspects for the Romulans' mysterious allies. Our mission is asset denial. We find the Borg Sphere and destroy it. If the opportunity provides, we are to track down any research they've already made into it and destroy that too. Pilatus used to have a colony in it in 2382, but the seismic instability of the very close orbiting planets made the efforts more trouble than they were worth, so we set a course for the supposedly deserted system. On completion of the mission, we get from a selection of impulse engines, increasing the Armiger's overall impulse speed and turn rate. We drop from warp into the system and Tarsi, at Tactical, detects the Borg Sphere immediately. It's hard to miss, but it looks heavily damaged. All that dried plasma vented around it, giving it a green shroud. And it's encircled by the system's rocky debris, drawn here by some power source of the sphere, or perhaps an attempt by the Romulans to hide it. If the latter, I think they could have done a better job. There is a Romulan presence here, but only a few Tavaro warbirds to deal with. Easy enough. The Pilatus system looks as if it's cupped by distant purple clouds. Must be the remains of a nebula, or perhaps the pulverized debris of this system. After all, the planets here orbit in such close distance that seismic events on one affect the others, and there are signs of previous stellar bodies, asteroids and rings trapped in the world's orbit. Whatever the cause, it's sure pretty to look at. And sightseeing is over. The warbirds have noticed us. Rather than rush in, let's see if we can draw them away from the Borg Sphere. After all, we don't know how many of the systems they've got activated on that thing. They've been researching it for quite some time, so we drop speed and hide behind a rock. There's plenty to choose from, and the Tavaro ships come in to root us out, leaving the sphere alone. With them coming into range, we emerge from our cover and open fire. Fortunately, they really don't put up much of a fight. A salvo of plasma fire peppers our rear shielding, pointing out the last threat, a Mogai heavy warbird, but it's no match for the new Akira-class Armiger B. Now that the area is secured, we move in quickly to scan the isolated Borg Sphere. There are no life signs detected, Borg or Romulan, so with no further potential loss of life, we scuttle the sphere. Destroying the heavily damaged vessel is easy enough with a single overcharged phaser shot. There, but our job's not done yet. The Romulans have had plenty of time to study this device, so we're going to have to curtail their efforts to develop Borg technology. Tarsi notes a Romulan comm satellite in the vicinity and suggests luring in a ship with a distress signal. Rather than ambush the ship, which would avail us nothing except another destroyed Romulan vessel, she suggests that we hide once again behind an asteroid, power down, and wait to tail the ship as it returns to whatever base has been studying the sphere. We ping the satellite, then move to obscure ourselves behind the largest asteroid present, the one with a handy viewport to peer through, I think. What makes Borg tech so dangerous? Well, by its very nature, it seeks to convert and assimilate other technology around it, meaning that without extensive nullification of active Borg elements, it can convert vessels into a variety of Borg devices that will draw the Hive's attention. That, and the fact that it is generally much more advanced than Federation tech, something we cannot allow an enemy of Starfleet to obtain. especially as one bent on revenge such as Sela. We don't have to wait long before a warbird responds to the signal. Technically, it's a true emergency on their part. They've come to find debris of Romulan vessels and the sphere, with traces of Federation phaser fire, and they'll assume that they were discovered, rightly so, but with no signs of remaining Starfleet ships, hopefully they'll now return to their base of operations to report in. But before they warp out, Tarsi manages to tag the vessel with the transmitter, allowing us to home in on their signal. With no cloaking device of our own, we'll instead have to tail them at a distance. The trail ends at the Gasco system, a Romulan-controlled area of ailing importance. The downside to our plan soon becomes apparent as the station has had time to arm its defences and launch some defensive ships. That's a lot of enemy contacts. After all, they are reacting to a potential Federation presence. But we're here now, and thankfully they haven't yet managed to launch all of their ships, so we're going to have to move fast. Rather than charge in, all banks firing, the more tactical approach is to pick off the outlying ships as they come into range, steering clear of the turrets mounted across the station. We'll begin with this Mogai heavy warbird. The Mogai implodes, and then the next opponent comes into range and opens with a heavy missile, which we manage to shoot down from range. While we've been dealing with the patrols, Tarsi's been attempting to disable the turrets on the station itself, and it seems she's been successful. I'll have to ask her how she's managed to bypass Romulan security systems. This sort of cyber warfare must go on all the time behind the scenes of large-scale ship battles. With the turrets down, we pick them off as we approach. After all, we don't want them coming back online while we're within their range, considering half of them are tractor beam turrets. Some of the systems must be back online at least, as the turrets do begin to return fire. She did say it was a temporary measure, but we've already done enough damage to allow us to safely approach and get a closer look at this station. It certainly seems like they've been experimenting with Borg tech here. This Mogai warbird is immobile at the moment, but we can see the telltale green glowing corruption of Borg machinery spread throughout the vessel. We fly by the station, getting a sense of its vast scale as we locate the final defensive emplacement on the far arms of the outpost. Attacking from below to stay out of its firing arc, we neutralise the station's defences. Job done, we can beam on board before reinforcements arrive. But let's have a quick look at the station. It seems to have been adapted with Borg tech itself. Well, it was originally created long ago while the Romulans were butting heads with the Klingon Empire. But they deserted the station as the Klingon attentions were diverted and it became less important for the Romulans to maintain a presence here. If I had to guess, the Romulans brought the station up to spec with some enhancements. The station will no doubt respond with extensive security measures against armed intruders, so our objective is to interrogate quickly and destroy the scientists' research. Not a very Starfleet-sounding mission, but neither is risking being overrun by an assimilated power-mad Tau Shiar with a nutjob psychotic leader, which is very probably what could happen if we let this slide.
Starfleet? What are you doing here?
Blowing up Borg tech and ending your nefarious schemes.
Really? I sympathize. That Borg technology is creepy. We all hate it, but we don't have any choice but to work for the Tal Shiar. They're holding my sister hostage to make sure I behave, and she's not the only one.
I'm sorry, what? Oh. Okay, I'll try and help out then.
You might need help yourself in a minute or two. Your transport was detected, and the station is on high alert. Security forces are already on their way. You don't have a chance. Promise you'll try to help my sister, and I'll unlock all the doors and turbo lifts for you. There, she's near the medical bay. Good luck, and don't forget my sister.
Alright then. Bonus. Alright, and we head to the medical wing to secure the hostages too. Our progress out of the transporter room is hampered by security forces who have just arrived, consisting of Centurions and a field medic. The officers open fire whilst demanding that we surrender. This is more like the kind of resistance I was expecting. Taking them down, we proceed into the halls of the station, and from its windows we can see the arcing metal docking arms jutting off into space. We round the corner to be confronted by Gasco civilians talking to each other. But before we can approach, another wave of security forces round the corridor from the far end. One of the colonists flee immediately when we open fire, and as we finish off the security, the other decides it's probably best if they don't stick around. I don't blame them. An atrium of sorts to the left-hand side houses some plant life in regulated climate stations, and inside are two more civilian scientists. One cowers as we approach, weapons drawn. Right, yes, of course. Probably best to leave that one alone, but we do need answers.
You! Are you from Starfleet? What are you doing here?
No, I'm just in my pyjamas. Course I am, Linian. We're here to stop your dastardly...
I have no love for the Tal Shiar, but I do have a family. If I complete my work, the Tal Shiar will guarantee our safety.
You have armed Starfleet officers rampaging through a defenceless station. I don't think the Tal Shiar care. Where's your family? We'll help.
Most of the families are being held in the medical lab. You will need to cross the engineering level to get there. Be careful. Some of what they're working on there is quite dangerous. Any use of Borg technology is dangerous. You're talking about devices designed to regenerate damage, replicate themselves, and assimilate anything they can reach. If we had a breach in containment, we could lose the station and everyone in it.
Right, medical wing, got it. Another researcher being strong-armed into cooperation, and like before, their family is being detained. But in the medical wing? I don't like the sound of that. Why not a brig? And from what Linian said, it sounds like the Romulans are being rather gung-ho about their experimentation with the Borg. We take a turbolift to another level of the station, and the doors open into a massive hangar, filled with security and researchers. Strange instruments of obvious Borg origin line the room, emitting sickly yellow and green glows. We've got to watch our fire in here, there's a lot of potential innocents among the security. There's a central computer interface in the middle of the lower level that we'll get to after we secure the room. Around it buzz some more scientists. I can't tell if they're ignoring us or unaware of our intrusion. Suspended above it all is a long-range Romulan shuttle similar to a Federation runabout. It's being wired into the Borg technology. Even in this controlled state, it looks like the Borg device is greedily grasping for the shuttle with pincers, trying to snare it and inject tubules into its machinery. We dispatch more security teams, and after the firefight dies down, I realise I can hear this pulsing, echoing noise that sounds almost like a heartbeat. Well, they weren't lying. The Borg tech is rather creepy. There's a device on the data terminal we noted earlier, and it appears to resemble a spine of sorts, and again it's hardwired into the Romulan tech. So let's delve into these logs, shall we?
Head researcher, log supplemental. The Hirogen upheld their end of the bargain and delivered a disabled Borg Sphere to the Pilatus system. As a precaution, we have not moved the sphere from that location, but do not want to risk powering any systems that might trigger the Borg's regeneration protocols. However, I do feel it is safe to begin dismantling and analyzing the sphere's components. The Borg technology shows great promise. I believe we will be able to improve our weapons and shield technology well within the Empress's timeline.
Ah, so the Hirogen did indeed deliver the sphere then. We were correct. Let's listen to the second log.
Researcher, log supplemental. Work to integrate Borg components into our vessels has begun. So far, the process is proceeding as expected. We have increased the combat capabilities of our ships by upwards of 30%. I still feel like we are barely scratching the surface. There is so much about the Borg technology I do not understand. Some of my researchers have expressed concerns over the risks of experimenting with this technology. I explained that circumstances beyond our control force us to take extreme measures. I suspect they continue to have misgivings, but they no longer share them with me.
So, there were doubts from the outset. Good, but of course, results first.
Head researcher, log supplemental. I now share my staff's misgivings about this line of research. Incorporating Borg technology into our ships is one thing, but this Commander Navek has taken over our medical bay and is experimenting with incorporating Borg technology into our citizens. Anybody that expresses discontent with the program either disappears or finds their family being held hostage to ensure their cooperation. We should have never sided with the Tal Shiar. And now it's too late.
They're incorporating Borg tech into their citizens? There's a word for that. Assimilation! This Commander Navek is playing with fire. We need to destroy this research. And that's how us tactical captains do it. Right, we have more data nodes to destroy, so we set about our sabotage. I can't believe that this Navek is adding Borg tech to his people. No doubt spurred on by seeing good results from Borg integrated ships. And I think I now know why the families of the researchers are being held in medical. They're the test subjects, aren't they? Also, the Romulan in those logs introduced himself as the head researcher, but we met Linian earlier. He was the head researcher and an elderly man. I think perhaps there may have been a change in management after the man in the logs began to have misgivings. We take a final turbo lift into the medical wing and walk in on an imposing sight. First though, let's deal with the security here. Ah, well, look at that. Commander Hale Navek is here too. He utilises plasma grenades in combat and soaks damage pretty well, but without his cronies and medics, shouldn't be too much of a problem. Looks like he was keeping his office next to the lab. Well, I guess it might not be his, but it takes a certain level of detachment to be able to work right next to all of this. Not to mention the civilians in cells mere meters away. In the centre of the room, we see the fruits of Navek's research. A bald Romulan lies in Republic uniform, with pale skin, black veins and visible technology erupting from his eye socket. A Romulan attempt at a super soldier? I'm sorry, but this looks like a drone to me. At the right hand side of the room as we entered, there are 3 containment cells, each holding a civilian in a state of agitation. We lower the force fields to let them out. Let's begin by talking to the most composed of the 3.
I can't even begin to express my gratitude. I'm from Serene Prime, one of the colonies that is still neutral in the conflict between the Republic and the Tal Shiar. Before all this, I was a vocal proponent for the Republic. All I can think is that I attracted the wrong kind of attention for my outspoken beliefs. One day I went for a walk on the cliffs near my settlement. I remember seeing something strange and hearing a metallic buzzing. Then everything went black. I woke up in this cell. No one will tell me where I am or why I'm here. What they do say is that I'm a test subject. They're planning on implanting me with Borg technology. I didn't think anyone could be so callous, not even the Tal Shiar.
Tkela, we'll get you home. The Armiger can beam her out. So it's not just the families of the researchers that they're holding here, but anyone that the Tal Shiar needs to dispose of. We work our way down the cells, evacuating the subjects who calm down when they realise that they're being rescued. I don't know if the researchers' families are among the civilians we liberate, but if they're not, then they probably found themselves lying on that operating table, and they aren't in any state to be rescued. The last evacuee complains of a headache before leaving. Let's hope it's not due to any implanted tech. We'll have to give them a medical workover back on the Armiger.
Hello?
Using a nearby comm panel, we inform head researcher Linian that we have evacuated the captives and confirm that for him at least, his family is safe.
Thank you so much. Now, allow me to assist you. These access codes will wipe our computer core, destroying all of our data. No one will be able to replicate what we've done here without that information.
Thanking him, we download the codes. This will probably prove to be more effective than simply shooting the terminals and computer nodes. I still argue that my way's more fun. We enter the code Upsilon Beta 241 and initiate a computer purge of the data core. mission accomplished. Taking one last look around at this idiotic travesty, we beam back to the Armiger. As we prepare to leave, Darcy notes that the assimilated Romulan ships are powering up. Due to their Borg adaptation technology, they will power up faster if we open fire on them, responding with an almost adrenaline-like defense, it sounds. Darcy can use the command sequences we've obtained, either from the earlier foray into Romulan systems or perhaps from a liberated Romulan researcher, but either way she can halt their startup routines, but only for a moment. So the trick here is to get close to one, deploy the interference code, then unleash as much firepower as you can muster to destroy these eldritch abominations before the interference wears off, and they power up completely. We have to move quickly from one to the other and avoid firing on one until we are prepared to focus fire on it 100%.
I want to thank you again for rescuing me from an unpleasant fate. If I could impose on you once more, would you be willing to take me to my colony? I must deliver a report on what's happened to our ruling council, and I'd really like to see my family again.
Of course, that's not an unreasonable request, one I'm sure Admiral Tenay would grant. So let's depart the system before Romulan reinforcements show up. We've accomplished a lot here today. Confirmed the presence of Borg-modified Romulan ships, halted their frankly foolish forays into biological assimilation, and destroyed all of their progress. You should always listen to your science teams. If they voice concerns about a project, they're the ones with the knowledge to justify those concerns. Commander Novek was pushing into a dangerous field of study despite all misgivings from his staff and resorted to abduction and hostage-taking to force cooperation. I'd hold the Romulan scientists partly responsible, but the Romulans have had limited exposure to the Borg, nowhere near as much as the Federation, so I can understand their more cavalier attitude. But even these scientists drew the line at the simple ethics of sentient experimentation.
I have forwarded your mission reports and the recovered data to Starfleet intelligence. We now know the Romulans have been researching Borg technology, and they were willing to risk a war with the Federation to advance their goals. There is a 76.77% chance that Starfleet will have to take action against the Romulans to prevent them from upsetting the balance of power with this research. If that occurs, I predict that we will need you and your crew to assist in averting calamity. You have done well. Live long and prosper.
Admiral Tenay, ever the practical Vulcan, suspects this still isn't over. She's probably right. But that is a problem for another day. Thank you for watching, and I hope that I'll see you back again for the next part, for the continuing exploration into the storylines and narrative of Star Trek Online, through the crew of the USS Armiger. Until then, thanks again for watching. I've been Rick, and goodbye.